Today we are going to be making a delicious potato soup. Hello makers of the home, bread makers, bread machine lovers. Welcome to Butterfly Meadows Homestead, where the dough rises, hearts are warmed, and bodies are nourished. From baking and cooking to canning and preserving, we love everything homesteading. Together, let's create delicious food that nourishes your body and soul. Today we are going to be making a delicious potato soup. So I'm going to be using some home canned potatoes that I have. But if you don't have home canned potatoes, you have other options. You could go ahead and peel and cube some fresh potatoes and cook them until they are tender but not falling apart. You don't want to overcook them because you want them to hold their shape. Red potatoes do really well in potato soup because they don't fall apart as bad. Or you could buy a store-bought can of diced potatoes, or even the small new potatoes. You could also use new potatoes in this. But you're going to need some potatoes. So I have a couple of cans of home canned potatoes that I'm going to be using. I have my seasonings here. I have some black pepper, some salt, some garlic powder, and some onion powder. And I am going to be using, you can use any kind of milk that you want to use, but I have some evaporated milk. It does really well in this soup, so I'm going to use a can of evaporated milk, and I'm also going to use a can of chicken broth. This is home canned chicken broth that I made, and I have here some flour. That's to help me with the thickening, and this is optional, but I have here a hot cherry pepper. It's been pickled, and I'm going to use the whole thing, seeds and all. We like a little heat in our soup, and this will do the job right there. You can either leave the hot out if you don't want it to be spicy, or you could use cayenne pepper, jalapeno peppers, any kind of hot spice that you would like to put in there. And here I have a large onion that I have diced up pretty coarsely, about 1-inch pieces, because I want there to be pieces of onion in the soup. I didn't want it to be too small. If your family or friends don't like having onions, you could shred it so it would hardly be noticeable at all, or you could leave it out and just use more onion powder. But I like to put the onion in mine. The first thing that I'm going to do, I have here a small Dutch oven, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the heat onto high, and I'm going to put some oil in my Dutch oven. Now you could also use butter. I'm running very low on butter, so I don't want to use butter. I'm putting about a tablespoon of oil in that pot. And the first thing I'm going to do is put my onions in here and saute them. I want them to slightly caramelize. Now I'm just going to cover this pot and let these onions sweat a little bit and caramelize, and then we'll move on to the next step. So the onions are starting to caramelize a little bit. Hopefully you can see that, how they're starting to get a little brown. Just a little. At this point, I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of flour, because this flour, it will help my soup to thicken. And now I'm going to pour my chicken broth. First, I'm going to turn the heat off of my eye. I'll turn that back on in a minute, but I don't want things to burn. And so first I'm going to pour my chicken broth in with my onions. Since I'm using canned potatoes, I'm going to go ahead and get those into my pot. And I'm going to open up my can of evaporated milk. You could use heavy cream, half and half, or just regular milk if you wanted to. This is a good use for evaporated milk. You know, you can't use evaporated milk in just anything that calls for milk, but it does really well with this potato soup. Doesn't that just look yummy already? I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat back on. I'm going to put it on medium low. Now I have my hot pepper here. I'm just going to cut it up a little bit. I bought a big jar of these pickled peppers at the Amish store that I go to. I have a couple of videos of some grocery hauls I got from there, and I bought these there, and they have been so wonderful. Now we're going to add our spices. So first I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of salt. I'm going to start with a teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm going to add a generous, maybe teaspoon and a half of garlic powder. And about a teaspoon of onion powder. And you can tell that yellow hue here, that's coming from my home canned chicken broth. Now I'm just going to put the lid on and let this come up to temperature. Let it get very warm and hot. And as it warms up, it will thicken. You want to watch something like this. Lots of starch in here. So we don't want it to boil over. But I am going to put the lid on it. And I'm going to watch it very closely. Our delicious potato soup has been simmering for about 20 minutes. And it is ready to be sampled. As you can see, it thickened up while it was simmering, and we're just going to get some out here. Some of those hearty potatoes. Just look at this. Hopefully you can see that. Smells delicious. Get a piece of potato, piece of onion. Doesn't that look delicious? Perfect potato soup. The potatoes are just right. The onions still have a little bit of crunch left, and that pepper just gave it a little bit of a kick. I hope you'll try this recipe and watch some of my other videos here. Thanks for stopping by. God bless. Bye-bye.